live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
A fire tears through crumbling apartment blocks in a historic part of Dhaka, killing at least 70 people as it set off a chain of explosions and a wall of flames down nearby streets.
President Donald Trump says he is barring a U.S.-born former Islamic State propagandist from returning home, making the highly unusual case that she is not a U.S. citizen.
The World Health Organization lauded the Philippines for passing the universal health care law that seeks to ensure Filipinos equal access to quality health care.
And Samsung unveiled its first folding handset as part of an effort to rev up demand in the slumping smartphone sector.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Officials said at least 70 people were killed when fire tore through crumbling apartment blocks in a historic part of Dhaka, setting off a chain of explosions and a wall of flames down nearby streets. It started in one building where chemicals for deodorants and other household uses were illegally stored and spread at lightning speed to 4 nearby buildings, according to the fire service. People became trapped by the flames at a nearby bridal party and a restaurant too. Firefighters, who took almost 12 hours to bring the fire under control, went through the blackened floors of the building littered with spray cans looking for bodies. The fire started at about 10:40 p.m. on Wednesday at Chow Bazaar in the old Mughal part of the capital. Authorities said it may have been started by a gas cylinder and quickly spread through the building where chemicals were stored in rooms alongside the apartments. Chemicals used for household products were also stored in the nearby buildings, and they exploded as the fire spread, according to witnesses. Members of a bridal party at a nearby community center were also caught in the fire, and many were injured. Others were caught in small restaurants. Dhaka Deputy Police Commissioner Ibrahim Khan said at least 2 cars and 10 cycle rickshaws were burned in the fire.
Two cardinals criticized Pope Francis' approach to the clerical pedophilia crisis, saying abuse of power was not to blame but homosexuality. Instead, U.S. Cardinal Raymond Leoberg and German Cardinal Walter Brandmüller, in an open letter, say the cases involve priests who have gone away from the truth of the gospel. The plague of homosexual agenda has been spread within the church, promoted by organized networks and protected by a climate of complicity and a conspiracy of silence, claimed the cardinals who belong to the church's conservative wing. Stories of sexual abuse of minors have emerged across the world. The Catholic Church has been accused of covering up crimes committed by priests.
Meanwhile, Pope Francis opened Thursday a landmark summit at the Vatican on fighting child sex abuse, saying that the world expected concrete measures on tackling pedophilia in the Catholic Church. The pontiff will dedicate the next 3.5 days to discussing the Church's response to child abuse by members of the clergy with bishops from around the world. Now, the Pope is aiming to tackle the continuing scandal, which again hit the Church in 2018 in countries across the globe, including Chile, Germany, and the United States. The U.S. Catholic Church has been shaken by one of the gravest crises in its history, with the defrocking last week by Pope Francis of a former Cardinal American Theodore McCarrick over accusations he sexually abused a teenager 50 years ago. And there are reforms in the pipeline, such as the tweaking of certain canon laws, according to another of the organizers, Maltese Archbishop Charles VI Cluna. But the suggestion that church laws need only fine-tuning has angered many, including Ann Barrett Doyle, the co-director of BishopAccountability.org, a public database that documents cases of proven or suspected cleric sex crimes.
Canon law has to be changed, not tweaked, not modified, but fundamentally changed so that it stops prioritizing the priesthood of ordained men over the lives of children and vulnerable adults who are sexually assaulted by them. He has not enacted a systemic change unless you count the motu proprio. What he could, you know, that doesn't seem to have a lot of teeth or a lot of muscle, I guess is the better analogy. He could still strengthen that law and start removing bishops and start laicizing bishops who are enablers.
In our own Archdiocese of Boston, Massachusetts, for example, a couple of years ago, I guess it was, that letter was sent to Cardinal O'Malley from an outsider that knew quite a bit of details about McCarrick's abuses. And there's a person at the Boston Archdiocese, I guess, whose one of his responsibilities is to read the mail that comes in. And either he was directed not to, or he made the decision on his own that this letter that had really troubling information about Cardinal McCarrick did not need to be passed on to Cardinal O'Malley.
The United States said Wednesday it would refuse to take back a U.S.-born Islamic State propagandist who wants to return from Syria, arguing that she is no longer a citizen. Muthanna was born in the United States to parents from Yemen who became naturalized American citizens, according to the Counter-Extremism Project at George Washington University, which has identified 64 Americans who went to join the Islamic State group in Syria or Iraq. In late 2014, shortly after moving to Syria, Muthanna posted on Twitter a picture of herself and 3 other women who appeared to torch their Western passports, including an American one. She went on to write vivid calls over social media to kill Americans, glorifying the ruthless extremist group that for a time ruled vast swaths of Syria and Iraq. But with the Islamic State group down to its last stretch of land, Muthanna has said she has renounced extremism and wants to return home. The Trump administration's refusal to admit 24-year-old Hoda Muthanna could set precedent and face legal challenges, as it is generally extremely difficult to lose U.S. citizenship.
You know, as a U.S. citizen, she's held accountable to U.S. law. She will likely have to return to face the criminal justice system. I'm sure she may face some serious charges, and she may ultimately have to spend time behind bars. And she's willing to do that. She realizes she was wrong. She was brainwashed. She made serious mistakes. But nonetheless, she realizes that what she did was wrong, and if she has debts to society, she wants to pay those debts, and she's willing to pay those debts, and she wants to be a powerful voice to speak out to ensure others don't repeat the same mistakes that she did. Now, we do know that those alleged tweets came shortly after her first husband was killed. We also know that she didn't truly have control over her Twitter account while under their control. But regardless of the circumstance, nothing can justify such hatred, and she's deeply ashamed by it, and she's willing to pay whatever price there is Huda grew up very sheltered, right? Her mom really restricted her access to friends, and therefore she really found a place of belonging on her phone, online. And what happened is when she ultimately did get in touch with those recruiters who preyed upon her, who targeted her, who started grooming her, they really gave her so much attention, right? And they played with her mind, and they cut her off from her friends, from her family, from her community, from her mosque. Because they
Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido made plans to head for the border with Colombia to personally bring in U.S.-supplied food and medicine in defiance of the military-backed government, raising fears of possible weekend confrontations. Guaido, who has set a Saturday deadline for bringing in the aid, planned to depart at 6 a.m. Thursday in a caravan of buses with members of the opposition-controlled National Assembly, forcing a high-stakes showdown with President Nicolas Maduro. On Maduro's orders, the military has beefed up border security and barricaded a major border bridge to prevent the supplies from entering the country from Cúcuta, Colombia, where tons of supplies are stockpiled. Although it was unclear exactly what Guaido intends to do, he says he has enlisted hundreds of thousands of volunteers in recent days to help bring in and distribute the aid. Shipments of food and medicine for the crisis-stricken population have become a key focus in the power struggle between Maduro and Guaido. The 35-year-old leader of the Venezuelan legislature proclaimed himself acting president January 23 and has since won the backing of more than 50 countries. He wants to oust Maduro, set up a transitional government, and hold new elections.
Moscow warns Venezuela's self-declared interim President Juan Guaido against inviting foreign intervention by using aid shipment as cover and calls for dialogue between the government and opposition. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov says Moscow is concerned about threats from the U.S. that are actively supported by Venezuela's opposition, essentially inviting foreign intervention.
Угрозы, которые звучат из Соединенных Штатов и которые активно поддерживаются и стимулируются венесуэльской оппозицией, по сути дела, прямо приглашающей внешнее вмешательство, они, безусловно, являются нарушением и устава ООН, и прямым вмешательством во внутренние дела независимой страны. Есть предложения, которые находятся на столе переговоров, предложения в рамках так называемого механизма Монтевидео, и мы очень рассчитываем, что лидер оппозиции, господин Гуайдо, все-таки откликнется на инициативы, которые предполагают инклюзивный диалог между всеми политическими силами Венесуэлы. Результат может быть достигнут лишь через инклюзивный политический диалог, через компромиссы, через договоренности. Только тогда он будет устойчив. А любые силовые акции, они только загонят проблему вглубь. Надеюсь, все это понимают.
Venezuela's military, which is backing President Nicolas Maduro, said it was on alert after Guaido vowed to bring aid into the struggling country, which Maduro slammed as a smokescreen for a U.S. invasion. U.S. President Donald Trump has refused to rule out military action, warning the Venezuelan military that they will lose everything. Lavrov said U.S. threats are unquestionably a violation of the UN Charter and direct meddling in domestic affairs of an independent country. He said he hoped that Guaido would respond to initiatives that suggest inclusive dialogue between all of Venezuela's political forces. Meanwhile, Craig Fowler, commander of U.S. Southern Command, warns Venezuela's military you'll ultimately be held accountable for your actions.
This message is for the Venezuelan military.
Este mensaje es para los militares venezolanos.
You will ultimately be held accountable for your actions.
Ustedes al final van a ser responsables por sus propias acciones.
Do the right thing.
Hagan las cosas correctamente.
save your people and your country. Our government is working closely with the government of Colombia and with the Venezuelan interim government to ensure that aid reaches the most vulnerable populations. Messages for the Venezuelan military.
Shifting gears now, speaking to French Jewish community leaders, President Emmanuel Macron announced measures including legislation to fight anti-Semitism and hate speech on the internet.
L'antisionisme est une des formes modernes de l'antisémitisme. C'est pourquoi je confirme que la France, qui, comme vous l'avez rappelé, l'a endossé en décembre avec ses partenaires européens, mettra en œuvre la définition de l'antisémitisme adoptée par l'Alliance internationale pour la mémoire de la Shoah. Ce que ce texte portera donc, ce sont des dispositions claires, imposant les retraits dans les meilleurs délais de tous les contenus appelant à la haine et mettant en œuvre toutes les techniques permettant de repérer l'identité dans les meilleurs délais et enfin appelant à la responsabilité, y compris sur le plan juridique, les dites plateformes.
Anti-Semitism appears to have reached its worst level since World War II. French President Emmanuel Macron told Jewish community leaders on Wednesday, a day after thousands of people took to the streets to denounce hate crimes. The scourge has grown in recent years, and the situation has got worse in recent weeks, Macron told the annual dinner of the Representative Council of French Jewish Institutions. Europe's biggest Jewish community is reeling after a string of attacks that have made global headlines. Macron announced measures including legislation to fight hate speech on the internet to be introduced by May. He said he had asked his interior minister to take steps to ban racist or anti-Semitic groups, singling out for a start 3 far-right groups, Bastion Social, Blood and Honor Hexagon, and Combat 18, which he said, quote, fuel hatred, promote discrimination, or call for violence. He also vowed that France would recognize anti-Zionism as a form of anti-Semitism. On a visit Tuesday to a cemetery in the Alsace region near Germany, where 96 Jewish tombstones were daubed with swastikas, Macron promised, quote, we shall act, we shall pass laws, and we shall punish. Macron said Macron and his government have linked the appearance of swastikas and other anti-Semitic graffiti on artworks, shop fronts, and headstones to far-right and far-left elements within the Yellow Vest protest movement.
A heated debate on Brexit sparked off between UK Prime Minister Theresa May and opposition Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn in the House of Commons in London. People's jobs and livelihoods are in the Prime Minister's hands. Will she stop playing games with people's jobs and make it very clear that no deal is absolutely ruled out, asked Corbyn. But May accused Corbyn of not having a clear stance on Brexit.
Mr. Speaker, so let's look at the record that the Labour Party had in government in terms of employment. Unemployment rose by nearly 500,000 under the Labour Party. Female employment rose by 26%. Female unemployment rose by 26%. Youth unemployment rose by 44%. And the number of households where no one had ever worked nearly doubled. That is a record of a Labour government where the working people pay the price of labour.
And Mr. Speaker, child poverty halved under the Labour government. We invested in Sure Start in children's centres. We invested in a future for young people. She should get out a bit more and hear the anger of so many young people around this country of what they are suffering from now under her government, under her watch. The chair, Mr. Speaker, of the manufacturers' organisation Make UK said yesterday, "I'm saddened by the way that some of our politicians have put selfish political ideology ahead." You should hear the rest of it first. Ahead of the national interest and people's livelihoods, and left us facing the catastrophic prospect of leaving the EU next month with no deal. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, Food and Drink Federation, National Farmers Union and the CBI all want a disastrous no deal ruled out. Along with the TUC, many also support the UK being in a permanent customs union. A little over a month ago, and this government has failed to put the country first. The crisis of jobs going, industries under threat, and the Prime Minister indulges in what our own business minister calls fanciful nonsense. When is she going to put the interests of the people of this country before the interests of the Conservative Party?
Prime Minister! To the right honourable gentleman, can I say to the right honourable gentleman, he has consistently put his party political interest ahead of the national interest. We can take no deal off the table by agreeing a deal. Yet at every stage he has acted to frustrate a deal. He has acted to make no deal more likely. But that's not surprising from this Labour Party, because what do we see from his Labour Party? Hamas and Hezbollah friends, Israel and the United States enemies, Hatton a hero, Churchill a villain. Attlee and Bevan will be spinning in their grave. That's what the right honourable gentleman has done to a once proud Labour Party. We will never let him do it to our country.
People of this country before.
In other news, the husband of a Korean Air heiress known for a nut rage tantrum that sparked uproar in South Korea has accused his wife of abusing him and their young children, according to police on Thursday. Choi Yun-ah shot to international infamy in 2014 when she lost her temper over the way she was served nuts in first class before takeoff from New York. She was sentenced to a year in prison for hampering an air route after ordering the Seoul-bound Korean airplane back to the gate so she could have a flight attendant ejected. The attendant, along with a colleague, had served her macadamias in a bag rather than a bowl, prompting Cho to order them to kneel and beg for forgiveness. Now, she was later cleared on appeal and served just 5 months. Her husband, surnamed Park, said Cho had been physically and verbally abusing his family, including their 5-year-old twin sons, since she was released from jail in 2015. He filed charges against Cho, who denies the allegations on Wednesday. He's suing her for child abuse and inflicting of bodily injury, among other things, according to an officer at the National Police Agency. Park, a plastic surgeon, and Cho, who married in 2010 after meeting in elementary school, are in the process of divorcing. He shared photographs of his neck and toe wounds with the local TV station, claiming they were inflicted by Cho, and said he had submitted photos and video footage of the abuse to police.
An attack by gunmen on villages in northwest Nigeria last week claimed over 130 lives, more than double the toll initially reported, the governor of Kaduna State said on Tuesday. Governor Nazir El-Rufai, who was invited to speak at the briefing with President Muhammadu Buhari, was criticized for announcing the deaths last Friday on the eve of elections, which were subsequently delayed. The bodies were found in 8 villages in the Kajuru area of the state, which has long been a center of deadly unrest fueled by ethnic and religious tensions. A representative of the ethnic non-Muslim Adara community, which is dominant in the area, told AFP they had been recurring attacks by Fulani Muslims in the last 3 years. At the weekend, the governor said the victims were Fulanis, but a prominent non-Muslim body has said the attack did not happen. It is unusual for state governors to make such announcements in Nigeria, and El Rufai hit out at claims that the attack was fabricated as irresponsible. Nigerian media reported that Kaduna State Police Chief Ahmad Abdul Rahman also attended the meeting and said 11 people had been arrested. El Rufai from the ruling All Progressives Congress, or APC, is known as a close ally of Buhari. He is seeking re-election as governor in upcoming polls on March 9. Buhari, who also wants a second term of office in presidential polls, postponed to this Saturday, is facing a number of security challenges across the country. They include Boko Haram's Islamist insurgency in the northwest or northeast, and an upsurge in violence between farmers and herders in central states. Kaduna is one of several northwest states to have been hit by kidnappings for ransom and cattle rustling by criminal gangs.
The World Health Organization lauded the Philippines for passing the universal health care law that seeks to ensure Filipinos equal access to quality health care. According to the WHO, it will extend its support to the Department of Health and the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation in drafting the implementing rules and regulations for the law. Under the Universal Health Care Law signed by Duterte on Wednesday, all Filipinos are automatically enrolled into the National Health Insurance Program.
We look at universal health coverage foremost as a political choice. If there is a strong political will, the system can deliver. And this act indeed is a very clear and concrete commitment to the population and puts health at the top of the national agenda.
The Department of Health in Region 12, or SOCSARGEN, will embark on massive measles vaccination starting next week for children 9 months to 5 years old, as the disease continues to threaten many parts of the country. Jenny Panizales, DOH-12 focal person on measles eradication, said the massive vaccination against measles across the region aims to ensure that no outbreak will occur in Region 12. We aim to reach even the farthest villages to ensure 100% immunization, Panizales said on Thursday. From January to February 19, according to Panizales, the DOH-12 recorded 244 measles cases throughout SOCSARGEN, composed of the provinces of South Cotabato, Sultan Kudarat, North Cotabato, Sarangani, and the cities of Cotabato, Kidapawan, Tacurong, Coronadal, and General Santos. She said DOH-12 registered an additional 62 patients from the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMM.
Tigdas po o anti-tigdas dapat yan, yung maliit pa.
Meanwhile, the United Nations stated concern over the measles outbreak in the country. Bobby Soriano reports from New York.
On February 11th, UN spokesperson Farhan Haq addressed concerns of the growing measles outbreak in the Philippines.
Our humanitarian colleagues tell us that last week, the Philippines government declared a major measles outbreak in Metro Manila and Central Luzon, and it has now expanded to other areas. More than 4,300 suspected measles cases have been reported since January, with at least 70 deaths. In 2018, nearly 22,000 measles cases were reported in the Philippines, a 376% increase compared to 2017. In support of government-led efforts, the World Health Organization has provided technical support and funding to the National Immunization Program and is monitoring the implementation of the vaccination campaign to contain the outbreak.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommend that all travelers to the Philippines be vaccinated against the measles. Reporting from the United Nations in New York, this is Bobby Soriano, 1 with 25.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks, Bobby. Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
Word Hope will be having all new episodes very, very soon. We can't wait for all of you to join us again as we learn many, many things. We will have loads of fun learning new words and values as well. So, stay tuned to Net25 Kids every Saturday and Sunday, 8:30 to 9 a.m. only on Net25.
Hi, I'm Madeline. And I'm Samantha. And we're the Callion Twins. Please watch Digital Nest on Net25 every Tuesday and Thursday at 7:30 p.m. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Digital Nest EBC. Callion Twins signing off.
For Business News, this is Cesar Vallejos. Every Filipino may soon be covered by a national health insurance program as President Rodrigo Duterte signed into law the Universal Health Care Act. The law signed on Wednesday seeks to improve access to health services by ensuring the availability of medicines and health facilities. By automatically enrolling our citizens into the National Health Insurance Program and expanding PhilHealth coverage to include free medical consultations and laboratory tests, the Universal Health Care Law that I signed today will guarantee equitable access to quality and affordable health care services for all Filipinos, Duterte said in a speech during a ceremonial signing event in Malacanang. The bill, which was also previously certified as urgent by the President, also reconstitutes the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation into the Philippine Health Security Corporation and will become the national purchaser of health services. The traditional budget sources from the Universal Health Care Law include premium contributions of members of the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, annual appropriations from the Department of Health included in the General Appropriations Act, and government subsidy. Aside from this, fund sources also include total and incremental sin tax collections, 50% of the national government share in the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, and 40% of the charity fund of the Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office, net documentary stamp tax payments, and mandatory contributions of the national subsidy in the General Appropriations Act. A Health Technology Assessment Council will be formed to oversee the implementation of the UHC. Moreover, the UHC law also aims to boost localized healthcare by ensuring that they are well-funded and staffed. PhilHealth payments in local hospitals will now be used to improve its facilities and services. Furthermore, it will now require recipients of government-funded scholarships for health-related courses to render service in the public sector for at least 3 years. The government will soon be crafting the implementing rules and regulations to thresh out the guidelines on how the law should be implemented. According to the law, it will take 15 days for the measure to be effective after it is published in the official gazette or a newspaper of a general circulation. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce says China and U.S. teams will further deepen communication on trade, and the intensive talks are being held to reach an agreement.
根据我的了解，中美双方工作层已经于19日开始工作，高级别磋商将于21日至22日举行。双方将在上一次高级别磋商的基础上，就有关经贸问题进一步深入沟通。双方经贸团队举行如此密集的磋商，目的是按照两国元首共识，努力达成一致。至于磋商的具体进展程度，要等到磋商结束后，才会有进一步的信息发布。谢谢。
U.S. and Chinese negotiators are working on multiple memorandums of understanding that would form the basis of a final trade deal, according to a person briefed on the talks. The MOUs would cover areas including agriculture, non-tariff barriers, services, technology transfer, and intellectual property, said a person who asked not to be identified because the discussions are private. The enforcement mechanism remains unclear, but would likely be a threat that tariffs would be reimposed if conditions aren't met, the person said. No breakthrough is expected during this week's talks in Washington on major structural issues, the person said, but there is an effort underway to potentially extend a March 1 deadline for U.S. tariffs to rise on Chinese goods. Liu He, China's chief negotiator, is expected to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday, according to a separate person familiar with the situation. The third annual EduTech Philippines 2019 was recently held at the SMX Convention Center in Pasay City. The event discussed new strategies and innovations to bring 21st century quality education to the country. Gerald Ranyas reports.
At the third annual EduTech Philippines 2019, various sectors and the entire education system have once again joined forces to discuss new strategies, arts for teachings, and other changes in order to provide 21st century quality education in every corner of the country. The program aims for students and teachers alike to assess the learning management system through the use of cutting-edge technology using different digital platforms. The Department of Education, which responds first and foremost to the various needs and in providing quality education through the use of educational technology and innovations, continues its focus on new teaching strategies.
So I hope that even as we advocate, as we keep on repeating ICT, 21st science, etc., we should not forget, we should not abandon our history, our culture, our music, our dances, and all of these, which with the help of technology can be preserved not only for our learners at present, but also for the future.
Different presentations and exhibits were flashed, which highlighted the role of education and industry in the age of digital transformation. Globe, which is among the major sponsors of the event, showed their commitment in providing digital solutions in the fields of teaching, school administration, and needs of students. These includes programs such as the Digital Literacy Program.
And in Globe, it's not just providing connectivity, it's not just providing product or services or any solutions for the schools in the country. we actually have programs. So I mentioned a while ago that my team or our group is the center of excellence when it comes to education in the whole globe. So my group is in charge of providing or executing programs that would help students, that would help educators, that would help the school administrators to use technology in their classroom, in the whole university, and look at technology not just as a form of entertainment, but as a form of learning as well.
This will also be a huge help in speeding up transactions. The students' usage of GCash is an example of cash transfer of allowances, among others.
Optimizing our app experience so that students are compelled and very much in their nature to be able to bring out GCash as their kind of main mode of payment, because as mentioned, like, you know, their only idea of cash is, or at least money is cold cash, like the tangible paper that they want to see exchanged back and forth. You know, that experience, it can be a little tedious, especially now, and for those who travel back and forth from, like, you know, their dorms or their homes, travel.
And it's safer now because they don't have to bring money with them, correct?
Yeah, the idea is that it stays in their phone and it's in secure payments as well.
There will also be good opportunities for those teaching and studying online through the use of LMS or the learning management system.
If you're delivering teaching and learning online, in other words, remotely, so the student is on their own, one of the most important things of doing that is the engagement of the student and the teacher. The personalization of the interaction, the learning activities, the activities that the teacher uses to deliver that teaching. So we come from that background and we've developed from there.
The security IT system and school administration IT solutions and the service full package, which is offered by Globe, is also popular among those who participated in the event.
Parang example po, ako po yung learner. So may hawak po akong personalized ID ko. So pagpapasok po ako, itatap ko po siya. Pasok po. So may iwasan na po yung mga over the background, may iwasan na yan. Kasi ano na siya secured na siya Kailangan yung mismong estudyante siya yung magtatap. And here's more, hindi lang yon. Hindi lang log report ang binibigay niya. Pag nag-tap yung bata, si learner, may manu-notify ngayon na message kay parent. So kampante na si parent na pumasok na yung bata sa eskwelahan. So paano naman pag nag-out? Ganun din, magtatap din po siya. O out na siya. Magno-notify uli kay parents that the student has successfully logged out of the school. It's really for school security and monitoring purposes. Yung school management solution, computerized na rin po yung registration, enrollment, the cashiering, and library system.
While the adaptation and embrace of digital transformations remains a challenge today because of different cultures and beliefs, the education sector continues to be a battleground with all the attention needed, because the molding of responsible individuals who are considered the future begins at school. For Eagle News, I'm Gerald Ranias and I'm one with 25.
Samsung unveiled its first folding handset as part of an effort to rev up demand in a slumping smartphone sector. The South Korean giant's Galaxy Fold unveiled at a San Francisco event services as a smartphone with a 4.6-inch display and unfolds to become a tablet of 7.3 inches.
I'm ready to go. Wow. It's really quick. All the usual things get really cool. I can unfold it and instantly see the map on the big screen. Yeah.
Each screen works perfectly on its own, but the Fold is more than two separate screens. It's a unified device. These displays work together to give you a singular, seamless, multi-screen experience.
To go. Wow. It's really quick.
Prime Minister Theresa May said she had made progress in talks with the EU on Wednesday as she sought to extract concessions on the terms of Britain's divorce, but as expected, there was no major breakthrough. With less than 6 weeks until Brexit Day, May met European President Jean-Claude Juncker, hoping for movement on the Irish backstop issue after EU leaders insisted that they would not restart negotiations. Fears are growing that Britain could yet crash out without a deal, and there was fresh drama just before May headed to Brussels as 3 of her MPs resigned from her Conservative Party in protest over Brexit to join a new independent group of lawmakers. Citing the risk of a hard Brexit, ratings agency Fitch on Wednesday warned it could downgrade Britain while the pound slipped against the US dollar. A joint statement from May and Juncker also called their meeting constructive, striking a slightly more positive tone than what they met a fortnight ago. Separately, May said she had stressed the need for legally binding changes to the backstop, though the EU has ruled this out. The main stumbling block has been the Irish backstop, which provides for Britain to remain in the EU customs union until a way is found, such as a future free trade deal to ensure that Ireland's border with Northern Ireland remains open. Brexiteers in May's own Conservative Party see this as a trap to keep Britain tied to the bloc indefinitely and have demanded a time limit or exit clause. Brazil expects to save more than $300 billion over 10 years through a bill presented to Congress Wednesday that aims to overhaul the country's unsustainable pension system, the government said. The bill, which requires constitutional changes to impose a minimum retirement age and extended pay-in periods for workers in both the public and private sectors, is a crucial plank of right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro's plan to overhaul Latin America's biggest economy. Bolsonaro personally delivered the much-anticipated text to Congress, where he was jeered and booed by leftist deputies in the opposition.
É fundamental equilibrarmos as contas do país para que o sistema não quebre, como já aconteceu de empregos. A nova previdência será justa para todos, sem privilégios, ricos e pobres, servidores públicos, políticos ou trabalhadores privados. Todos seguirão as mesmas regras de idade e tempo de contribuição. Também há detalhes. Respeitaremos as diferenças, mas não excluiremos ninguém. E com justiça, quem ganha mais contribuirá com mais. Quem ganha menos contribuirá com menos ainda. Quero lembrar, determinados a mudar o mundo.
Under the proposed reform, the minimum retirement age would be set at 65 for men and 62 for women. Full pensions would be paid after 40 years of contributions with access to partial pensions from 20 years of payments. The new system would be phased in over a 12-year period. The architect of the overhaul is Paulo Guedes, a U.S.-trained free marketeer who is Bolsonaro's economy minister. He had reportedly initially sought 65 as the minimum age for both sexes before Bolsonaro decided on a lower limit for women. He and the government are concerned that Brazil's aging population will overwhelm the existing pension system. That's it for Business News. I'm Cesar Valleos. I'm one with 25. Eagle News International will be back. Stay with us.
Ang mga pinakahuling kaganapan sa loob at labas ng bansa. Agila Balita. Hindi na masariwang pangyari sa mga lalawigan. Sa Agila Probinsya. Ihimayin ang mga pangyayari sa Asia, hatid ng ASEAN in Focus. Pati na ang mga kaganapan sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo sa Eagle News International. Pagpalampasin ang mga pinakahuling pangyayari sa mata ng Agila. mga balitang makabuluhan. Dapat subaybayan. Dito lamang sa Net25.
Ako po si Bimbo Cerudo. Lagi po kayong manood ng Young Once Upon a Time Season 2 tuwing linggo, alas 8 ng gabi, dito lang sa Net25.
ASEAN in Focus, Monday to Friday, 2 to 2:30 p.m.
A tortoise thought to be a Chelonoidis fantasticus, which was believed to have gone extinct about a century ago, is discovered during an expedition to Fernandina Island in Ecuador's Galapagos archipelago. There has only ever been one previous confirmed sighting of the species, which is also known as the Fernandina Island tortoise. A single individual was collected from the island as a specimen in 1906 during a huge expedition by the California Academy of Sciences. During the 18-month trip, 78,000 specimens were taken from the archipelago and brought the Academy in San Francisco, where they have formed the basis for vast amounts of research. But the Fernandina tortoise, which was already very, very rare, was subsequently thought to be extinct due to volcanic eruptions over the centuries. Fernandina is the youngest island in the Galapagos archipelago and remains the most volcanically active. At least 14 species of giant tortoise once lived on 9 of the Galapagos Islands, all differing in size and shell shape. Today, only 10 species living on 6 islands remain.
And here's Ben Bernaldez for our sports news.
South Africa's Sports Minister Thokozile Sasa said Wednesday she will fly to Switzerland to support Caster Semenya at landmark hearing on proposed rules to restrict female athletes' testosterone levels. The Olympic champion is appearing before the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Lausanne to challenge rules proposed by track and field's governing body that would force her to lower her testosterone. The International Association of Athletics Federation says it is introducing the rules to create a level playing field for other female athletes. Sasa will be alongside Semenya to hear deliberations between IAAF and Athletics South Africa until the end of the hearings on Friday. Sasa will also speak about South Africa's human rights stance on the issue of female classification and reclassification. Minister in the presidency responsible for women, Batabila Dalamini, said the archetype of female athlete is being controlled by sexist regulations. Last week, the government launched a campaign dubbed #NaturallySuperior in a bid to drum up international support for Semenya's fight against the rules, which they have labeled discriminatory. Semenya won the 800-meter gold medals at both 2012 and 2016 Olympics and also won her third world title in London 2 years ago. And in boxing, amidst the long wait for the Manny Pacquiao-Floyd Mayweather Jr. rematch, another American boxer wants to join in the party. The reigning IBF welterweight king Errol Spence Jr. said he is willing to take on the Philippine senator and champion anywhere. He says he's open to the idea of fighting Pacquiao in the Philippines and anywhere else. Manny currently owns the WBA regular welterweight crown and is considering an alternative to Floyd in case he refuses to show up. Spence is being handled by premier boxing champions top honcho Al Haymon. He is also the handler of Floyd Mayweather Jr. On March, Spence will defend the IBF belt against Mikey Garcia. Once he gets past the Mexican-American, Spence promises to pursue Pacquiao. He says that right now he is worried about Mikey Garcia, but will entertain all the questions about Pacquiao after his defense. And in the NBA, the 76ers return from the All-Star break without their starting big man Joel Embiid, who is expected to sit out a week due to a sore left knee. According to the 76ers, an MRI showed no serious damage to the star big man's knee, but he will have to undergo treatment, physical therapy, and load management to be exact. 76ers coach Brown thinks the problem appears to be a bit of tendinitis and thinks it's got even worse because of Embiid's participation in Sunday's All-Star game. Joel Embiid's first 2 seasons was delayed because of the past injuries, and he was missed 51 games in his first one. Fifth in the Eastern Conference, 6.5 games behind the Bucks, the Sixers launched their second-half playoff push against the Heat on Thursday when the season resumes after All-Star break. And these are the stories for EN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I am 1 with 25.
Miss Universe 2018, Catriona Gray, enjoyed a homecoming parade in the Philippines. Gray, a student of music theory, beat more than 90 contestants from around the globe to clinch the tiara in December. The 25-year-old danced, smiled, and waved a tiny Philippine flag from atop a float, shielded from the pounding tropical sun by attendants holding pink umbrellas as some in the crowd scaled utility poles to catch a glimpse. Manila's already notorious gridlock was brought to a complete stop by a police motorcycle escort that blocked roads as confetti cannons sprayed the crowd, which was pushed back by officers. Gray works at a non-government outfit that provides free education for children at a Manila slum and has lent her voice to her country's most controversial issues, including legalizing medicines that contain marijuana. Gray, whose father is Australian, was the 4th Filipino winner of the prestigious beauty pageant and the 2nd since Pia Wurtzbach in 2015.
Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angeles, and we're 1 with 25.
Susunod na programa ay rated PG.